Okay, hello. My name is Gabriel Gasque. I am head of outreach at protocols.io. And today I will be presenting an advanced webinar about tips and tricks for power users. So this is not an introduction to protocols.io. So it assumes some basic understanding of the platform and its functionality. But before we begin with the main content of the presentation, I would like to acknowledge that Protocols.io main office is located in Berkeley, California, the ancestral and unceded land of the Ohlone people. We recognize that we have benefited from the use and occupation of this land. Consistent with our values of diversity, equity, and inclusion, we have a responsibility to acknowledge this fact. We also recognize that the Ohlone people are alive and flourishing members of the Berkeley and broader Bay Area communities today. As I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, we will record this webinar and we'll be sharing the recording and the slide deck, which is minimal, with all registered participants. Also, closed captioning has been enabled, so feel free to turn it on if you want to use it. I think that I will speak for about 45 minutes, and we will leave some time at the end for questions, but you can start typing those questions right away in the chat or in the Q&A windows of Zoom. And finally, as I said before, this is an advanced webinar. It's not an introduction. However, we have a series of resources for you to get familiarized with the platform. And you can find some of those resources at the bottom of this slide. The first link will take you to our series of monthly webinars, some of which are introductions. And the last link will take you to a form to request a one-to-one demo, in which you will be talking to one of our team members, and both of you can share your screens and have a very dynamic conversation about any question that you might have about the platform. But about today's presentation, we will be discussing how to bring into the platform existing protocols in different digital formats like PDFs or Word documents. Once we have created one of these protocols, we'll go into advanced editing, and I will show you some functionality. We will talk about forking, versioning, and copying existing protocols. Then how to create collection of protocols, how to privately share your protocols in addition to publishing them. And finally, I will talk about running protocols and the task manager. And the end of the presentation will be for questions. So most of the presentation is a live demo. So the set of slides is just minimal. So I'm going to minimize my slide and start showing to you how to bring into protocols.io existing protocols in different digital formats. So I'm going to minimize my presentation. And what you see now on the screen is my own personal account in protocols.io. Just to orient ourselves, to the left, I have the multiple workspaces to which I belong. These are the collaborative spaces for you to create protocols and collaborate with others. Each workspace has a folder that is organized by the file manager. but I will be working today from my own personal workspace. I have created a demo folder for today's presentation, which you can find it here. I already populated that folder with some protocols, just demo protocols. And here you'll see my hard drive that contains some protocols in different formats. So we have some Word documents, we have a PDF, and I'm gonna just open one of these protocols for you to see. So this is the PDF. It has a title, it has an abstract, and it has sections and steps. So the easiest way for you to create or to bring those existing protocols into the platform is just to drag and drop them. So from here, I can create a new folder. I'm going to call it imported protocols. The folder is empty, and I can just take these protocols and bring them to the platform. Sorry. So you see that now the protocols have been imported into the file manager. I will reload so you can see the protocols. There is a PDF, there is a text document, there is and a few Word documents. Now, because these are protocols in their original, these are documents in their original format, I can share them, and we will get to sharing towards the end of the presentation, but I cannot publish any of these protocols. So if I go back to my main folder, you will see that if I select any of these protocols, I can publish these protocols. I can publish these protocols, but I cannot publish the protocols that I just drag and drop. So I don't have the publishing option. So what I have to do is I have to create a protocol with the editor. And there is a very easy way for you to transform any of these protocols into a protocol, any of these documents into a protocol. So I can select the protocol. This window will open that says create a new protocol from this file. I'll click it. I agree to use OpenAI to transform my Word document into the protocol, and I will convert it. While it works, I'm going to open the protocol that I selected as a Word document so you can see it. It is similar to the PDF. So there's a title, an abstract, and two sections with a few steps. So this is the Word document. Now, the converter has finalized the import of the protocol, and I can view the protocol now. And you will see that that document, Word document, has been transformed into a step-by-step dynamic and interactive protocol in protocols.io format with the title and the abstract and the steps. Now that we have this protocol, we can start improving it by adding components. So I'm going to go back to the editor. So now this is the editor. To open the components, I'm going to click Components. And these components will give structure and functionality to your protocol. And you can see there are a few of them, but I'm just going to showcase a couple. So here we have a volume that we can transform into an amount. And this is important when we get to the run functionality. I'm just going to leave this one alone. So I have added components, I had added amounts, and there is a time here that I can transform into a duration. So I added volumes or amounts, and I added duration. And I can keep adding other components like documents or reagents or data sets. But I'm just going to show for today these two components. Again, components give structure and functionality to your protocol, and some of them are relevant when you run your protocols. We can also insert images or embed videos. So to insert an image, I go to insert image or video. I can browse in my documents, and I can insert an image to my protocol. I can also embed a video that has been preloaded to YouTube or Vimeo, for example. So I have here a video that explains how to load an agarose jail. If I want to embed that video into my protocol, I can do that. I go to share in YouTube. I select embed. I copy the text. I go back to my protocol. Now I say, instead of inserting, I select embed media. I paste the code. I save it. And now the video has been inserted or embedded, and I can play the video. We can also insert tables. So I can create a table here. And let's say this is a table to make a buffer. So I'm going to rename the columns as reagent, volume. Let's say in microliters. And then this could be 5x. So I can call this water. This can be buffer A, salt B, and I can add quantities here, and the tables accept formulas. So I can say 5 times B2, and then I multiply everything by 5. I can also bring the content or a table that was created previously in Excel. So I'm gonna, this is again my hard drive. There is a Excel table here. And as you can see, let me try to make it bigger. So you can see the values here. Again, reagent, volume, 5x, 10x. And these are the values, right? So I can copy the content of the table, I go back to my protocol. I can create a new table, an empty table, and then I can paste the content of my table here. However, you will see that the formulas weren't pasted, just the values. In these columns, the formulas were not pasted, just the values. If I want to paste the formulas, copy and paste the formulas from Excel, I have to select formulas, then I have to select show formulas. I have to copy them again. And now I can create a new table down here and paste them. Now, in the previous one, I don't have the formulas. I just have the values, but in this one, now I have the formulas. And that's because the formulas were shown in Excel. And the same applies for Google Sheets. You have to display the formulas for you able to copy and paste the formulas and not just the values. There's another sort of table in protocols.io that we call a smart component. And a smart component is an actionable table that will capture values during a run. Again, we will use some components like amounts and timer in the run. This is another component to be used in the run. It is called the smart component. To insert a smart component, I open the components. I can search for the smart component. And I'm going to add 2 rows. Let's imagine that in this experiment, I have to capture the number of dead cells in a microscope field. So the first amount to be quantified will be the total number of cells, and the second will be the dead cells that I see in that microscope field. I'm going to mark each of those entries as required, and now I can add the component. And what you see here is that it looks like a table. But this is an actionable table during the run. And we will get that to how it works at the end of the presentation. Just remember, we're going to check amounts, duration, and a smart component during the run. And the final functionality that I want to show for advanced editing are step cases. Step cases are used to bifurcate a protocol. Let's say that this protocol shares a core, but then I have the option to select whether I proceed with tissue A or whether I proceed with tissue B. Let's say long and hard. And the protocols are going to be slightly different once I commit to that tissue. To bifurcate a protocol, I select a step case. So to add additional steps to this existing protocol, I go to insert a step. Here, I can select new step. I inserted a step, but I can also insert what we call a step case. As I mentioned before, in this example, we're going to be working with 2 different tissues. So this one I can call long. I can add a step case. Now I see long, and I can add a second step case, which will be hard. Now I have 2 options, long and hard. I can start adding steps to each of these branches. I'm going to call this long step 1, long step 2, And I can move to the heart and add steps. Now, the heart branch has 3 steps instead of 2. I have to take an additional step if I'm going to work with heart. Heart, step 1. Heart, step 2. And heart, step 3. So the lung has 2 steps, the heart has 3 steps. If I want to bring the branches together, the only way for us to do that is to create steps in one of the branches. Now I can copy these common steps that bring back together the protocol after I bifurcate it. I go back to heart and paste them. Now the lung has 4 steps, 2 that are specific to lung, and the last 2 are common to the heart as well. And the heart has 3 heart-specific steps and 2 common steps. Now, if I go to view my protocol, I will see everything that I have created. I can see the amounts, I can see the duration, the inserted image, the embed video, the different tables that I inserted, the smart component, and then I can toggle between the heart and the lung. And this works for different tissues, different cell lines, different mouse strains, different equipments, different conditions. And you can create as many step cases as you want. Not only 2, you can create 2, 3, 4, and so on. Now, let's go back to the file manager. So you might recall that we have these protocols that we drag and drop directly from my hard drive, and we have this protocol that we first started creating using AI to transform one of these Word documents into the protocol, and then we use the editor to improve the protocol. Let's talk about how to use existing protocols to create variations. And we're going to talk about versioning, forking, and copy. As a brief summary, these are the 3 types of reuse of existing protocols: fork, version, and copy. Fork and version will generate a link to the original protocol and can be used by anyone. You can fork your own private protocols, but you can also fork existing public protocols. You can version your own protocols, and you can start creating a new version of an existing public protocol. But to be able to publish that new version, you will have to request a merge to the original authors. Copying a protocol will not create a new link, will not create a link to the existing protocol, and only the owner or the administrator of the workspace can create copies of an existing protocol. We recommend using forks when you want to optimize an existing protocol for a different purpose. Let's say you find in the public repository a protocol that was used to sequence Ebola, but you want to now sequence, let's say, SARS-CoV-2. You can take that protocol, create a fork, and change only the steps that you will need to change to make the protocol work for your own purposes. That is forking. Versioning is usually used to correct or improve an existing protocol without changing the objective of the protocol. Let's say you made a mistake and you want to correct that, or you want to add now a video that clarifies a step that was confusing, you can create a new version. And versions usually sit on top of each other. And because copying doesn't preserve the provenance, we recommend using copying only when you are creating a template and then you are individually developing the protocols. Let's say you're putting together several protocols for a single paper. You can create a template that contains all the metadata. It contains the authors, the affiliations, and that is your template. Then you can create multiple copies that are independent of each other and develop them independently. Let's see how that works in action. So I go back to my file manager. You might remember that we created this protocol, which is this one. So I'm going to create a new version of that protocol. I select the protocol. I select version. I'm going to save it in the same folder. I'm creating a new version of the protocol. I'm going to edit the new version right away because I'm going to add V2 to the title. Okay, now I'm going to view my version. And now this toggle appears. And I can move between the two different versions of the protocol. If I go to the second version, and I'm going to edit the protocol, and I'm going to make a small change in this version. I'm going to replace this volume for 5 in the new version. If I go back to the view, I can toggle back between the two versions, but I can also compare the two versions side by side. And the program will automatically highlight the steps that I modified between the two versions. So versions reside on top of each other. Let's go back to the file manager. So I have the two versions of the protocol. Now I'm going to create now a fork. I can take the oldest version and I'm going to create a fork. I'm going to change the title to call it fork. The fork is being created. Now I'm going to view the fork. And as you will see, there's again a link that indicates the provenance of the protocol. It says that this protocol was forked from an original one, and I can access that protocol also by clicking this link. I can also compare two forks. Side by side. So you can compare versions and you can compare forks. But if I take now this protocol and I create now a copy, and I view the copy doesn't show the provenance. So there are no versions, there are no link to the fork, the copy doesn't show the provenance. But it still reuses the content of the protocol. So you can version to improve or correct, you can fork to optimize the protocol for a different application, or you can copy, and that will not retain the provenance. Let's go back to the file manager. Okay, so now I preloaded these protocols that are called protocol 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now let's talk about collections. Let's say that I want, or I'm making these protocols part of a single publication. I can publish each protocol independently. I can select the protocol and publish it, or I can create a collection and publish the collection as a single document with a single DOI. Each of the protocols will receive a DOI, but the collection will also receive a DOI. To create a collection, I go to New, select Collections, select the folder in which I'm going to save the collection. I can add a title to the collection with today's date. And now I can start searching for protocols to add to the collection. It could be public protocols, or it could be my own protocols. I'm going to restrict the search for now to just my files. And I'm going to search for protocol 1. Then I'm going to select protocol 2. Then I'm going to select protocol 3. And protocol 4. Now, if I go to view my collection, the collection has now the 4 protocols that I added to the collection. I can publish a collection to receive a single DOI. And I can, if I go back to the edit, I can change the order of the collection. So I can put protocol 3 before protocol 2. I can remove protocols and do it all over again. So this is the collection. As I mentioned before, you can take any protocol and publish it, but let's talk about private sharing. To privately share a protocol, you can highlight a protocol, select share, and then either add collaborators to this protocol by typing their email address or by searching members of your workspace. In this case, I'm sharing this protocol with Lenny, and I'm going to share it also with Emma. I can change the privileges that each of these colleagues will have with the protocol I'm sharing with them. Lenny can edit, Emma can only view it, and if I save the changes, now they have both been added just to this protocol, not to my workspace, and I'm sharing privately with them. I can also generate a private link that I can share via email. I can add it to a Word document if I am submitting a paper to a journal, or I can use any electronic means of communication like Slack or WhatsApp to share this link. And that's to share privately your protocols beyond your workspace. And the last thing that I want to show to you is how to run protocols and how to use the file manager. Every protocol in protocols.io, either public or private, can be run. So if I search for a protocol here, these are public protocols that have PCR as keyword. If I open a public protocol, Every protocol comes with a copy or fork, so you can create your own forks of public protocols, and a run button that would allow you to follow the protocol as you perform the experiment. However, I'm going to be using my own private protocol. So I'm going to go back to the workspace. I'm going to take this protocol, that is a protocol meant to be run in 2 days, and I can run that protocol. I have to select where to save the run record. Running a protocol will create a record. So I'm going to save it in the same folder, and I'm going to start the run. I can add an experimental ID to my protocol, which will be today's date with the letter A. And now I can start, as I do my experiments, I can mark every step as completed. And once I reach day 2, I can pause. As soon as I started running my protocol, a new run record file was created, and it was marked as incomplete. There is one here that I did in advance, and that one is completed. If I want somebody to finish this experiment tomorrow, because I will be busy doing something else, I can share the run record with one of my colleagues. Let's say Lenny again. I enable Lenny editing. I save. And now Lenny can come tomorrow and finalize the protocol. So if I were Lenny, I will reopen this incomplete run. I will move to day 2. I will mark the rest of the protocol as done. I will finish the run. And now the incomplete file, if I reload, will be marked as completed. So you can pause a run and come back on a later date to finish it. Either you or one of your colleagues if you added that colleague. But I want to show you how some of the functionality that we use in advanced editing works in a run record. So I'm going to open this protocol that we created together. And you might recall that we added amounts components. So if I view the protocol, there is amount component here, here, but not here. I can run, save the run record, and start the run. Now, one of the advantages of using amounts is that you can scale automatically those volumes. So if I go here to this step, I can select edit or scale, right? I can scale by a factor of 5, accept it, save it, and all the amount components have been scaled by a factor of 5. You might recall that I left this amount as plain text. That wasn't scaled. So you have to create an amount component for it to automatically scale by the factor that you choose. You can scale at the step level, or you can scale at the protocol level, and that will scale all the steps. We also added a duration component, and this is useful because once I reach this step, it actually becomes a real timer. So I can let it run, and once the 10 minutes have finished, it will automatically beep. So the computer or tablet will let me know. I can proceed through my experiment, and once I reach the smart component that we also created before that looked like a table, you will see that I cannot proceed. And that's because entering the values is required. This was an experiment for us to quantify the number of dead cells. So if I counted a total of 45 cells, of which 32 were dead, so I enter the values and now I can proceed. So once I finish my protocol, I finish the run, and those values, which are now here, this is the run record. The values that I entered had been saved in the run record. So it allows you to capture results as you run the protocol. And building up on this running of protocols, we have also a task manager, which is a calendar view that allows you to plan experiments. So every workspace has a task that it looks like this. So you can see the list of tasks, or you can see the calendar view. This is the month of April. I have already scheduled one experiment that is already finished. There is another ongoing experiment. And to create an additional task, you can create a task, you add a title, and once you save the task, it will create the task in the calendar view. You can add protocols to the task. I'm going to add the protocol that is 2 days. And you can add collaborators to the task as well. So I added Lenny. I'm going to say that this experiment is going to start tomorrow, and it's going to last 2 days. I'm going to add the protocol again because I forgot to click save. And now I can distribute that protocol among my collaborators. So I'm going to say that Lenny is going to do from steps 1 to steps 8 of the protocol. And I'm going to add myself as well. I'm going to add, and I'm going to do steps 9 to 21. Now, every member that I have added to the task has been notified via email that they need to take an action. And if I go back to the calendar, you will see that a new task was created here. I can go to the list and see the open task, those in progress, and those that have been already closed. I can just select to see the open tasks. I can go back to the calendar, and I can see just the open tasks, or those in progress, or all of them. So this might help you distribute work among your colleagues and plan ahead if you know that you might not be able to finalize an experiment, either because you will be starting a new one, or you are going to go on leave, or are just sick. So this is the last part of this advanced training, and I will be happy to take any questions that you might have. And I will also appreciate that if you can give us your feedback about this webinar and my presentation. You can either follow this link or you use the URL code. I'm going to add the email address to the chat in case you want to reach out to me directly. I think there is a question. So Sebastian asked, how to design new components if required? There is not a way for you to design your own components, but if I go to the editor and you open the components, at the very bottom, there is a request component. So you can describe the component that you would like to see, and that request will go to our developers. There is no guarantee that the developers will definitely develop that component for you, but if we get that request repeatedly, we might positively develop such a component. Did I answer your question, Sebastian? Are there any other questions? I'm going to stop the recording in case somebody wants to ask a question of the record.